At my birthday lunch, she raised a glass and said, "To the last one we'll ever have to throw for her." Everyone laughed. I folded my napkin and left without saying goodbye. 3 months later, she applied for a community award in elder support, but when they contacted me for a statement, I sent back a page that ended with, "This wasn't support, it was silent survival under the roof of, I'm a 68-year-old woman living just outside Des Moines, Iowa. My name is Barbara. I don't write much on here, but something's been eating at me, and I need to get it off my chest. Maybe it'll make someone else feel less crazy for what they're going through." 3 years ago, my son Ethan and his family moved into my house. He had lost his job, and they were struggling to pay rent. I didn't hesitate. I told them to come stay with me until they got back on their feet. I'd lived alone since my husband passed, and truthfully, I missed having people around. I didn't think twice. His wife, Brooke, didn't seem thrilled about moving in with me, but I chalked it up to pride. I tried to make her feel welcome. I gave them the 2 upstairs bedrooms and moved myself into the basement so they'd have space. I cooked dinners, watched the kids when they needed, and paid every single utility bill without a word. For a while, things were okay. But then little things started changing. Brooke would make small comments under her breath. Things like, "Oh, we don't need to do it the old-fashioned way," when I tried to help with the girls' homework. Or, "Barbara's on her boiled cabbage again," when I reheated food. I'd walk into a room, and conversation would stop. I let it slide. I didn't want to rock the boat. I told myself maybe I was imagining it. Maybe she just had a sharp sense of humor. Maybe I was being too sensitive. But it didn't stop. When I'd wash the girls' clothes, she'd rewash them. She started labeling her groceries. She even put a sticky note on my orange juice once that said, "For the girls only." Still, I bit my tongue. For Ethan. For the kids. For the idea of family. Then came my birthday. Brooke planned a lunch at this trendy place downtown. I had never even heard of it. It wasn't my style, loud, overpriced, full of people half my age taking selfies with their food. But I showed up, wore a nice sweater, and smiled. There were 10 of us at the table. Brooke's friends, a couple co-workers from her job at a nonprofit, Ethan, the girls, and me. Nobody asked what I wanted to eat. Brooke ordered for the table. A bunch of little plates, some kind of modern farm-to-table tasting menu. It was all presentation, no flavor. I tried to be polite. I sat there while everyone talked over me. When I brought up how Ava had lost her front tooth that week, nobody responded. They were too busy laughing about some meme. I remember just sitting there, folding my napkin into little squares to keep my hands busy. Then the server brought out dessert. 1 slice of lemon tart with a candle in it. No cake. No card. Brooke stood up, holding her wine glass, and said, "To Barbara." I looked up. Maybe she was going to say something kind. Then she added, "To the last one we'll ever have to throw for her." And everyone laughed. Real laughter. Not nervous. Not unsure. They all thought it was hilarious. Even Ethan laughed. My son. I felt my face go numb. My ears rang. I just sat there for a second, trying to figure out if I had heard her right. Nobody tried to cover for her. Nobody said, "Hey, that's too far." It was just silence after the laugh, and then someone changed the subject to a new show on Netflix. I folded my napkin, stood up, and left the restaurant. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't slam my chair back. I didn't even let my eyes well up. I just walked out, slow and quiet. Got in my car. Drove home. And sat in the dark for a long time. After that, things were different. I stopped going upstairs. I made my meals downstairs in the little mini kitchen I'd put together. I didn't bother sharing dinner anymore. I didn't go to the girls' recitals. I told them I wasn't feeling well. Brooke didn't seem to care. She was louder than ever, stomping around like she owned the place. She started making jokes around her friends like, "Barbara's basically a ghost now. She only comes up to haunt us for her mail." I heard it all through the vent in the basement. 3 months went by like that. Then one afternoon in April, I got a phone call from a woman named Nancy. She said she worked with the Jefferson County Community Board. Apparently, Brooke had been nominated for their annual Heart of the Community award. The category? Elder Support. Nancy said Brooke had submitted an application, listing me as the primary elder she cared for. She wrote about our multi-generational home, how she'd built a nurturing space for me, and how she supported my dignity and independence. She'd even attached a photo of the girls and me from 2 years ago, back when things hadn't gone so rotten. Nancy asked if I could write a short statement about Brooke's support. I told her I needed a couple days to gather my thoughts. Then I sat down and wrote everything. I wrote about the cold shoulders, the labeling of groceries, the jokes at my expense. I wrote about the way she humiliated me at my own birthday lunch. I wrote how I cooked, cleaned, helped with the girls, and yet felt like I was slowly disappearing in my own house. I ended the letter with this wasn't support. This was silent survival. Brooke didn't nurture dignity, she quietly stripped it away. And if this is what you consider care, then I don't want any part of the award process. I mailed it in. Certified. A week later, Nancy called again. She sounded careful, like she didn't want to say too much. She told me that after reviewing my statement and conducting further conversations, they had chosen to withdraw Brooke's nomination. No public statement. Just quietly dropped. That would have been enough for me. But karma wasn't done. Turns out, Brooke had already bragged online that she was a finalist for the award. She posted on Facebook with a caption like, "So honored to be recognized for the work we do at home." She even made a fake certificate graphic. Her boss saw it. A few board members knew her through community circles. When the nomination fell through, people started asking questions. Long story short, she got let go from her nonprofit job. They didn't say it publicly, but from what I heard through a friend who volunteers there, it was because of misrepresentation and ethical concerns. That night, Brooke came storming into the basement, shaking with rage. "You vindictive old bitch," she said. "Do you feel better now? You think you're the victim? You have no idea what you've done." I just looked at her. I didn't say a word. She wanted me to fight back. But I wasn't going to give her that. She turned around and stomped back upstairs. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't spoken to her since. Ethan's been avoiding me, but I can feel the shame in him. He's quiet around the house. He's back to working nights. The girls still come down now and then to say hi, but Brooke doesn't let them stay long. And now, I'm making plans. No ending yet. But it's coming. After that night, something in the house shifted. Brooke stopped pretending. Before, she'd throw her insults with a smile or whisper them behind my back. Now, she didn't bother hiding them. She slammed cabinets. Left the kitchen a mess and said, "Maybe Barbara can clean it, she's got all day." She told the girls I was tired all the time and too grumpy to play with them. Ethan didn't defend me. He'd just sigh, rub his forehead, and walk out of the room. I started to feel like I was living with two ghosts, one mean and loud, the other quiet and useless. I started locking my basement door at night. It wasn't paranoia. One night around midnight, I woke up to footsteps on the stairs. Then a creak of the door handle. Someone trying it. Slow. Quiet. But I was awake. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. After a minute, the footsteps went back up. I bought a doorstop the next day. Jammed it under the handle every night after that. A week later, Brooke's car got repossessed right out of the driveway. She stood in the yard screaming at the tow truck driver while the neighbors peeked out their windows. Ethan came home from work an hour later, and she went off on him like it was all his fault. He didn't yell back. He just stood there, rubbing the back of his neck, nodding. Later that night, I heard them arguing through the floor vents. You said you were going to fix it. And you said you were getting that promotion, until you got caught lying on your application. You think this is about the award? It's about her. She poisoned everything. They didn't even bother lowering their voices anymore. My name came up a lot. So did the word nursing home. I knew what that meant. They were planning to get rid of me. Probably ship me off somewhere cheap and far, once they found a way to convince me, or force me. I didn't wait around for that. I called my old friend Dottie. We used to work together back in the 80s at a pharmacy, and she'd ended up managing an independent living place across town. I asked if she had a unit open. She said yes, but the waiting list was long unless I could pay the deposit up front. I told her I could. That weekend, I drove to the bank and withdrew from the savings account I had never told Ethan about. It wasn't much, just over $14,000, but it was mine. My husband and I had always agreed to keep one emergency stash, just in case. I guess this was the case. I didn't tell anyone I was planning to move. But one morning, while I was packing dishes into a box, Ava walked in. She's 8, the younger of the two girls. She looked at the boxes and frowned. Are you leaving, Grandma? I didn't lie. I nodded. She sat down on the couch beside me and said, Will I still see you? That broke something in me. I didn't know how to explain to a child that I was being pushed out of a house I owned, by people who smiled at me in public and whispered behind closed doors. I hugged her tight and said, You'll always be able to find me. I promise. The next day, Brooke found the boxes. She came downstairs and stared at them like she'd found a bomb in her living room. You're leaving? I didn't answer. Good. Honestly, it's for the best. She said it like she was doing me a favor. Then she laughed and added, Let me guess, you're running off to tell some poor director at that place your little victim story too? That stopped me cold. Because that's when I realized something. Brooke wasn't just mean. She was afraid. Afraid of what I might still say. And that gave me an idea. Not revenge. Not yet. Something else. I started gathering papers. Documents. Receipts. Notes. Emails. I made copies of everything. Medical bills I paid when Ethan was sick and uninsured. Grocery receipts I covered when Brooke claimed she was waiting on her card to go through. Screenshots of texts. Even one where she said, God, I wish your mom would just croak already. I put it all in a manila folder. I labeled it Household Records, Barbara M. Then I waited. Because I knew something was coming. And it did. 2 weeks before my planned move, I got a formal letter from a lawyer. Not a threat, yet. But a notice of occupancy reassessment. Ethan and Brooke were trying to challenge ownership of the home, based on some obscure claim that Ethan was co-owner by informal arrangement. I nearly laughed. Informal arrangement? The house had been in my name since 1992. Ethan never paid a cent on the mortgage. The title didn't have his name on it. But Brooke must have convinced him that after all these years living there, they could argue something. They were going to try to take the house. That's when I called my niece, Miranda. She's a paralegal in Omaha. I hadn't seen her in a while, but I remembered how sharp she was. I asked her to come visit, and bring her legal brain. She came that weekend. We went over everything. When she was done reading the paperwork and the letter from the lawyer, she looked up at me and said, They're bluffing. But if you want to burn this down legally, you can. And I'll help you. That was the first time I smiled in weeks. We made a plan. No ending yet. But now, I had a folder full of proof, a niece with legal training, and a daughter-in-law who had no idea what was about to hit her. I knew if I was going to fight back, I had to be smart. Quiet. Strategic. Brooke was loud and arrogant. That made her sloppy. I was slow and careful. That made me dangerous. Miranda stayed the weekend. She brought her laptop, a portable scanner, and a binder. She scanned every single receipt, bill, note, and message. She started a timeline. Every date, every dollar, every favor I did for them, documented. While she worked, I kept acting like everything was normal. I still made my little meals in the basement. Still smiled at the girls. Still said good morning when I passed Ethan on the stairs. But inside, I was watching. Noticing every slip, every word they thought I didn't hear. That's how I found the insurance scam. It was a Sunday morning. I was upstairs early, before anyone else woke up. I'd left my glasses in the kitchen. While I was there, I saw a stack of papers on the dining table. Open. Brooke's handwriting was all over them. It was an application for homeowners insurance. And there, clear as day, under primary resident, she had written her name. Not Ethan's. Not mine. Hers. She claimed she was the legal property owner. Said she'd inherited the house from her late grandmother. Gave her maiden name as the original owner, and even forged a few signatures on a fake transfer form she must have printed online. I took pictures of everything. Miranda couldn't believe it. This is insurance fraud, she said. Flat out. Apparently, Brooke had taken out a policy in her name, possibly hoping that if anything happened to the house, she could collect. I had no idea what she was planning. Maybe she was just hedging her bets. Maybe she thought I'd die quietly and she could claim the place. But now we had more than hurt feelings. We had something criminal. So Miranda helped me file a quiet complaint with the state's insurance division. We included the screenshots, the forged paperwork, and a letter outlining my legal ownership. It wasn't flashy. Just the facts. That same week, I finalized my lease at the new place. Paid the deposit. Set my move-in date. I planned to leave with my head high, clean and clear. But life had one more surprise for me. That Thursday, Ethan showed up at my basement door. He knocked, something he rarely did, and looked like he hadn't slept. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He sat down across from me and stared at the floor for a while before he said anything. I didn't know she put in that insurance stuff. I stayed quiet. He added, I didn't know she called that lawyer either. She told me it was just a formality. Still, I said nothing. Then he looked up at me, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the boy I raised. Not the man who let his wife mock me. Not the adult who sat silent at my birthday. Just Ethan. Scared. Small. Are you really leaving? I am, I said. He nodded. And you're taking it all with you? What do you mean? He hesitated. The bank account. The title. The will. That's when it hit me. Brooke had gotten in his head. Twisted him up so badly, he thought he was owed something just for being my son. That this house, this life, this legacy, was a birthright. It wasn't. It was mine. I stood up, walked over to my cabinet, and pulled out the manila folder, the one with all the documents. I laid it on the table between us. This, I said, is everything I've done for this house, this family, and you. If you think I'm leaving empty-handed, you're wrong. But if you want to step up and act like the son I raised, I'll leave one door open. He didn't touch the folder. He just stared at it. Then got up and left. I haven't seen him since. Brooke, however, got louder. The next few days, she stomped around the house, slamming doors, yelling into her phone. I heard her say things like, she's bluffing, and they won't believe some old woman over me. She kept saying the word retaliation, like I was the one starting a war. Then came the police visit. 2 officers. Calm. Respectful. Said they were there to ask me about a complaint filed with the state about potential forged documents related to a home insurance policy. I didn't say much. I showed them the deed with my name. The dated mortgage payoff. The photos I took of Brooke's forged forms. One of them whistled low and said, "Yeah, that's bad." They left a card and said someone from the fraud division might follow up. I didn't tell Brooke they came. I just started packing a little faster. And then came the last twist, at least, the last for now. I got a letter from the community board. Not Nancy this time, but someone else. A director. They'd reopened Brooke's file. Apparently, the fake nomination and forged documents had triggered a wider review. If the insurance fraud proved real, she could face formal charges, and possibly repayment of a prior grant she had received based on good character. In short, the very community she tried to lie her way into was about to eat her alive. And I hadn't even made my final move yet. No ending yet. But she's unraveling. And I've got one last piece to play. 2 days before I moved out, Brooke was served. It wasn't just a warning. It was a full investigation notice from the state insurance fraud unit, plus a letter from the nonprofit she used to work for. Turns out they reopened her employee file and found more: creative reporting, timesheets that didn't line up, duplicate mileage claims, even a fake expense report from a conference she never went to. She was being officially investigated for multiple violations. I watched from the living room window as she tore the envelope open, read it, and threw it across the yard. Then she screamed. Loud enough for half the block to hear. Ethan came running out. They fought in the driveway. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught the important ones. "You said it wouldn't come back to us. She was supposed to die in that damn basement. You lied to me." Then Ethan turned around, got in his car, and drove off. He didn't come back for 2 days. By the time I moved out, the house was falling apart. Brooke stopped cooking. The girls wore the same clothes twice in a row. I heard her crying through the walls at night, deep, choking sobs that didn't sound like the woman who once toasted to my death over lemon tart. I didn't feel bad. Because she made her choice. On move-out day, Miranda helped me load my boxes into her SUV. Dottie from the senior community had sent a team to help with the heavier stuff. I left behind the couch, the bed, a few old dishes. But I took what mattered. The documents. The title. My piece. Before I left, I taped an envelope to the fridge. Inside it was a copy of the revoked will. The old one had left the house to Ethan, with a few stipulations. That was before they moved in. Before Brooke's slow war. I had changed it 2 months ago. Now, the house would go to the county land trust after I died. It would be turned into a community-run family shelter, something our town had desperately needed for years. I had already filed the paperwork. I added a note: "You never wanted this house. You wanted control. Now you'll have neither." Then I left. I moved into a clean, quiet little apartment 2 towns over. It has a view of the river. Every Friday, I play gin rummy with 3 other women who know what betrayal feels like. We don't talk much about the past, but we understand each other. I wasn't expecting what came next. A month after I moved, Child Protective Services knocked on my door. Not for me, for a reference check. Apparently, someone had filed a concern. The school had noticed Ava and Sadie coming in with dirty clothes, no lunch money, and falling asleep in class. CPS wanted to verify the home environment. I told the truth. Every word. I didn't dramatize anything. I didn't exaggerate. I just told them what I had seen during my last months in that house. A week later, they came again. This time to place the girls, with me. Brooke had been taken in for questioning on the insurance fraud. Ethan had gone to stay with a friend and left the kids with a neighbor. The neighbor called the state when Brooke didn't come home for 2 days. Suddenly, I wasn't just a grandma again. I was a guardian. The girls moved in with me the next day. They were scared. Quiet. Ava asked, "Are we in trouble?" I told her no. I told her they were home. And I meant it. I had to go through a lot of paperwork. Court visits. Evaluations. But in the end, the court ruled in my favor. Brooke lost custody. Ethan didn't even show up to the last hearing. Now it's just me and the girls. We wake up early, eat oatmeal together, do homework at the kitchen table. On Sundays, we bake. Ava likes muffins. Sadie likes banana bread. Sometimes they ask about their mom. I don't lie. I say, "She's not well right now. But you're safe here." That's what matters. As for the house, it officially changed hands last month. The land trust took over. They're turning it into a shelter for women leaving abusive situations. I donated my husband's old tools to the cause. I went back one last time before they began remodeling. The walls were still the same color. The scratch marks on the basement door were still there, reminders of all the nights I felt trapped. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like justice. Brooke pled out to avoid jail time. She got 5 years probation and a permanent ban from working at nonprofits in the state. Her name is off every board she ever sat on. Ethan? Last I heard, he was living in a trailer park outside Newton. I don't wish him harm. But I don't answer when he calls. I loved my son once. Now I protect his daughters. As for me, I sleep better now. And sometimes, when I look at the girls laughing at the breakfast table, I think back to that birthday lunch. That stupid lemon tart. That cruel toast. And I smile. Because they were wrong. That wasn't the last one they ever threw for me. The last one hasn't happened yet. But when it does, it'll be with people who actually care that I'm still here.